thoughts, okay?
All right.
So what is your current thoughts and ideas on climate change?
It's something that we have to think of because President Donald Trump did not believe in climate change, and now what I saw was that in 2000 and 2100, many cities are going to be underwater.
Well, I definitely think it's happening. I mean, we can see it with our weather has changed significantly. I have been in the Bay Area my entire life, and it's definitely not the same climate it was when I was growing up.
I think climate change is it's getting to that point where it's almost too bad to repair, but there's still time. So it's definitely one of those we have to start working on this ASAP in a more serious capacity. But I do think most of the blame falls on corporations and factories and big things.
Right now it's getting a little bit crazy because you know how the weathers, they say, oh, it's a sunny day, next thing you know it's a warm day.
Have you heard of the term Anthropocene before?
Nah.
I have not.
I don't think so.
No, I have not.
Okay, so just to give you some context, Anthropocene is kind of the same way how we think of Jurassic. So it's a certain time and period. Specifically, Anthropocene is more related to how we think humans have a lot more effect on the world and just our climate overall. And then saying that, do you believe islands or any other geography or lands are indicators of climate change?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe islands are probably kind of the first ones to feel the effects of climate change? Or
Yes.
The Anthropocene? Okay.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. I mean, they're right at sea level, so they're...
Yeah.
Okay. And then, do you believe they would kind of be the first ones to feel that effect of anything before maybe the United States or even just in general?
Almost certainly with most types of, especially with sea level rises, I think islands would be kind of the first to recognize that effect on their own line.
So do you believe that they would be kind of the first ones to feel the effects of climate change and the Anthropocene we were talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so we're going to show you a video kind of related to the Marshallese Islands. This one's going to be more based around the 40s and 50s. This is just going to show you a couple images of what happened.
States detonated 67 nuclear bombs in the Marshall Islands' northern atolls of Bikini and Eniwetok. But more than any other place, the Marshall Islands is a victim of the two greatest threats facing humanity: nuclear weapons and climate change. The convergence is most symbolically epitomized at the Tomb, an unlined bomb crater on the island of Runit in Eniwetok Atoll. This is where the United States buried plutonium and other remnants of nuclear testing under an 18-inch thick concrete cap 39 years ago. As sea levels creep higher in the Central Pacific, the Tomb has begun bobbing up and down with the tides. The United States has no plan to prevent it from crumbling and spreading radiation even further across the nation's northern. Hundreds of just hatched sea turtles were seen spilling across the beach into the lagoon. The Castle Bravo bomb. That's where a group of researchers from Columbia University have been studying the radiation left behind by Castle Bravo and the other bombs. A team of professional divers took core samples from the bottom of Castle Bravo, at some point over 180 feet deep. In June, the researchers revealed that part of Rongelap Atoll, one of 27 atolls in the Marshall Islands, is as irradiated as some of the most notorious nuclear waste sites on the planet, including Chernobyl and Fukushima. The other major threat is climate change, and few places are more vulnerable to its impacts than the Marshall Islands and other low-lying Pacific islands. The seas in the Central Pacific are rising, twice as fast as anywhere else on the planet. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change predicts sea levels could rise 4 to 5 feet by the end of the century, making the Marshall Islands, where the highest point is 6 feet above sea level, physically unlivable. In addition to rising sea levels, global warming has caused a rapid decline in healthy corals, including bleaching. The day after the hottest day on record for 2018, thousands of dead fish formed a black line along the high tide line of Bikini Island's beaches. As the United States and the Marshall Islands begin negotiations for a new compact of free association, the Marshallese are hoping this new information from the Columbia University researchers will put them in a better place to begin negotiations as they move forward.
Was a report by the LA Times on the Marshallese Islands when it happened after Project 4.1. So Project 4.1 was just a nuclear testing site that they used with human subjects as well, being the Marshallese people. And after seeing that, do you think it was morally right to test the Marshallese and use them as human subjects, even though they were moved just around 170 miles away?
No.
No, because you never know what effects a human could have or what is their problem inside their bodies.
They were given reparations of $750 million. Do you believe that was a fair amount after being moved around and seeing that their health risk was still increasing?
No, it should have been more.
Okay.
Depends on the other people's like perspective of how they see it.
Lastly, after watching these videos, do you believe that we have a responsibility to help the people of the Marshall Islands or any other islands in general around? As you saw, it's not just the Marshallese Islands, it's all the other islands and atolls around that are also
I think we can, because we want to know what's wrong with the ocean and the island.
Watching these videos, do you believe we have a responsibility to help the people of the Marshall Islands still and other islands around them?
Yes, because some of them, they don't, well, how they're islands, they don't have nowhere to go.
And then lastly, seeing after those videos, would you consider nuclear fallout as part of the effects of climate change and just human cause?
I believe with yes. Yeah.
Yes.
In 1946, the Navy pulled into the harbor, the lagoon in Bikini, and went ashore and told the people there that the United States would like to use their atoll as testing a site for bombs, atomic bombs. The team that went there to, quote, quote, seek the permission of the natives couched it in terms of something that was the will of God. So the people left. The yield of those tests has been estimated at 1.7 Hiroshima shots every day for 12 years. We in the Marshalls, covering an area just under 1 million square miles of ocean, were the direct, like the ground zero, extended ground zero of the atomic bomb tests.
The largest explosion, and still the most powerful nuclear device ever detonated by the U.S., took place March 1st, 1954. Codenamed Bravo, it was a 15-megaton hydrogen bomb equivalent to 1,000 Hiroshimas. A miscalculation caused the yield to be about double what was expected. The radioactive fallout blew right onto 2 inhabited atolls downwind. More than 200 people were on those atolls, men, women, and children.
Rongelap is one of the 4 affected atolls by the nuclear testing of the United States from 1946 to the late 50s. The Rongelapese people, not only the land that has been contaminated from radiation, but their bodies and their health is also as affected from the fallout. March 1st, 1954.
As bad as the health effects of the testing were, the upheaval caused by the displacement of people from one island to another was even more damaging.
If you take a community away from its land and its lagoon, and you place them in another atoll, the fabric, the social fabric of that community is ripped apart.
The land is where it gives you the freedom to express yourself.
When you move people off their islands where they live to do the testing, you break down their entire community structure. What is the impact on health? You know, the stress issues. You contaminate their lands. They can't grow things that they used to eat.
Do you think it was morally right to test the Marshall Islands and use human subjects?
Not really. I don't think it's morally right.
No, of course not.
I think it wasn't okay. I don't think us humans are like test objects.
I think at that time, though, everybody was just doing really terrible stuff and nobody cared about each other. So, like, I'm not surprised, basically.
Sad thing is, it's kind of not surprising because there's a history of it.
Yeah, definitely. And then what you kind of saw was also more of the effects in that time. But there's also something called the dome, which is basically where all that nuclear fallout, not only from those tests, but also the tests in Arizona and other places, were dumped onto one island. And They were sealed by the Americans. Unfortunately, though, we don't maintain it. It's kind of just, it's a dump. We left it and we went. But reparations were sent in 2008 in a form of $750 million. And then we just wanted to ask is, do you believe that was a fair amount after what you just saw and after the test and obviously the like rise in health risk and everything like that as well?
I mean, I don't think you could put a price tag on that. I think it's great that we did send that in the first place. That's a good step. Is it a fair amount? No. Obviously, we could do more, but.
I think reparations and any kind of like monetary compensation is always going to be like imperfect because it is like it's a common thing, right? They're just like, oh, here's money, it fixes everything, which like isn't reality, but I guess it's like what else can be done to repair something that happened in the past? Like there's obviously things that they can do in the present, but like to repair something that happened historically, I think money is kind of the only option. A lot of these.
I think it was a good decision that the Marshallese did that because I believe they were getting used for things that they were innocent that they didn't want to get used for, and that's like their give back to back, In
the videos, do you believe we have a responsibility to help the people of the Marshall Islands and the other people on other islands as well?
I do if we're the ones doing these tests, like if it's our responsibility because of things that we've done, I do.
I think so, yeah. I think in any circumstance where there has been like long-lasting effects, like not just nuclear fallout, like there's obviously, you're talking about people who are like directly impacted, victimized by another group, then like 100% until all ailments have like been recovered and that particular group agrees like, okay, we're past it now. Only at that point I feel like can you start to think about maybe stopping support, but until that point,
definitely. So
I believe we should help them out more because like I was saying, I don't think humans would be good for testing things.
Do you believe that the nuclear fallout can be like kind of termed under climate change as well? Because as you saw, it meant the moving of people from their environment, from their homes, and community structures also being moved around.
I've never really thought about it like that, but now that you say that and kind of thinking that, climate change is definitely like influenced by humans. So yeah, probably.
I don't know if I would put it under the umbrella because I feel like nuclear fallout does tend to be mostly located to like one central area, whereas like climate change, in my head, I often just think about like the entire planet as like a big scale. It does impact a local climate. It does impact in the same way like it can affect the weather or what grows there or how the people live, like their life expectancy. So from that perspective, it's very similar. Maybe a slightly different term, local climate change or something, but not like a global. I don't know that I would call it like a global thing, but it's like adjacent. It's so similar that it's not.
And then last question, do you have any like last messages or anything you want to say to the Marshallese people?
I think it's just really tragic, really sad that in the modern era, like we haven't gotten past war. Obviously, like what's happening right now is an indicator that we're, as like a human race, not past that. So it's always really tragic when it affects regular people's lives and it like breaks up families and cultures and just like population groups. It's really sad. So I feel for the Marshallese people, and I hope that eventually overcome through, I know it's going to take like a really, really long time, but I hope that eventually they get to a point where it's like, okay, that's in the past and now we can like move forward.
Sa mga